Welcome back. My name is Owen Wilson, and this is the second video of the series revealing the truth of what it means to win in internet money. And like the title suggests, I am revealing the truth. And the way that I'm doing that is through my action and showing you all my live, uncut, raw performance from going from overall unprofitable on my day trading business to making multiple six figures per month with my business and getting those results that doesn't matter, what business you are in internet money, just online, money making. Those results are the results that we are all looking for. And, what I'm showing through this is what that growth process actually looks like and the problem solving of results that needs to go down to actually get from point A to point B. So this week is going to be just a review. Each one of these videos is going to be a review mostly of my weekly performance. I'll just, first talk a little bit at the beginning of the video and then go in and actually review my performance from this week. So this is going to be a review of the week of June 16th. And so I had 3 trading days this week. I have a playlist just on the channel. You can go through and watch each one of those live executions just to see again the results live as I'm achieving them. And so you can link back to what are the things that I am, what are the things that, I am speaking about as I'm reviewing this week's performance. And, just as a reminder again of why I'm doing this, why is it that my mission is to reveal the truth of what it looks like to win in internet money? I just think back to myself before I had the mentors that I do who show me what it actually looks like to go through the wins and the losses, and problem solve results to get better results over time, and the mental development that's required to think like that, right? To actually be an engineer of solving problems. Before I saw that, all I was really seeing when I, just naturally went to YouTube to learn how to make money on my own, all I saw really was the wins. And if losses were shown, it was always in hindsight and in a way that made the wins for that person look even more of a perfect appearance, because it's I was here and look at where I am now. But what I'm going to show is being here, and then being here and showing the whole process through that, just to illuminate something that I think's being kept in the dark, to be honest. And so, yeah, that's really the main purpose, of this. And and these videos, again, are raw, uncut. So as I'm thinking about what else it is that I want to say, I will not be cutting that out. Just, again, for transparency, right? I want to make sure that everything that I do aligns with that idea of being honest. Because in my business, I'm not going to be cutting out any of the ugly parts before I show you also. Same with the way that I film these videos, I'm not going to be cutting out any of the ugly parts either. Because the truth itself is both beautiful and ugly. And that ideal performance that, I mentioned earlier that, we all are looking for, that ideal performance creates an imperfect appearance when it's revealed truthfully. It creates an imperfect appearance, but it's true result. And real results are the things that we're actually looking for. Instead of focusing on appearances and making money off people just based on how we look, right? And having authority over people and controlling people via, I am the best in this, I am this, I am this, you should pay money for my information. We need to I believe that we need to break that down in this world, because I think that is very common in this world. I actually think that's how our world runs. And instead, what we should do, is focus on true result, because that's what we're actually looking for. Because if I'm focused on my appearance in front of you all, and like only showing the wins, and so focused on just what is this appearance that I'm creating for my audience, while I'm doing that, it's impossible for me to be focused inward on actually getting true results. So it degrades, focusing on appearances degrades the true result. It actually degrades competition, because now we're competing for appearance instead of competing for result. So what I'm looking to do really too is change when I say like revealing the truth of what it means to win at internet money, of what it means to win, right? I'm taking it back to competition, because I want competition to move away, not only internet money, but in the world, move away from appearances and move towards a result where we're actually competing based on the results that we get. So that's a little bit more about why I'm doing what I'm doing. But with that being said, I think it's time to get into my weekly results. I haven't reviewed them yet. This is just in the morning on Saturday. So I'm going to go and I'm going to review in my journal, my results. And then I'm going to film for you all what I'm looking for, in front of my results. So let's get to that. So these are my metrics for this week of performance. So I'm going to dive into just my reflection that I did today, looking back at the trades, and focusing on what I did well this week, where I fell short, and just what tweaks I'm going to make going into the coming week. So overall, looking at this performance, I only traded 3 days this week, and every trade that I took this week was conservative risk. So that's low risk. Overall, in terms of profit factor, it was an extremely profitable week. I made around 5.5 times what I lost. Now, it was a low P&L week, given that they were all conservative risk trades. The reason why they were conservative risk trades was just per my system, given it was either that it was a low risk time of day, or the higher time frame context was such that maybe I was trading against it, and so that's or like the reaction to key levels right now is seeming more against the overall higher time frame context, but I'm still willing to put on position. That's kind of the idea for this week. I have high trailing drawdown available, so that wasn't the limiting factor and why it was low risk. I have around $2,000 at the end of the week of trailing drawdown per $50,000 account. So going into this, coming week, certainly there's the potential for some higher risk trades, some, single losses that would be bigger than this, and wins that would be upwards, $20,000, much more volatility going on in terms of P&L. It's very, very low right now. So overall, we can just I'll show briefly the trades on Monday. There was a short first and then a long that won. On Tuesday, there was a long that won. And on Wednesday, there was a long. Thursday was Juneteenth. And so I thought markets were closed, but they were open, but I still didn't trade. I slept in, and I slept in as well on Friday, just focusing on recovery, and because I was feeling very tired and a little bit under the weather. So I've made it a long weekend. So looking, those are the trades. The main thing that I did well this week was I didn't try and outsmart my system. last week, that was something that was a challenge. Whether there was a couple instances of me trailing outside of my system because I thought that something was a different approach was required for this moment, or just the like every aspect of the way that I performed this week was in alignment with the requirements of my system. My system is not mechanical. However, there is I have, the system's right here. Basically, every aspect of what I do, whether it's trailing stops and taking profit, risk management, everything has a goal, defining an opportunity. Everything has a goal, and everything has a description of how I'm going to do it. It's not mechanical, it's discretionary, but there is a process still that must be followed, and I followed that process despite whether I may have felt like it was the thing that was going to lead to a win or not, because it's about long-term thinking and repeatability instead of just this short-term focus. Another thing that did well was I was consistent on how I defined the 2R region. So a new thing that I've been doing is I define a 2R region. So here, this take profit was about 2R away, so there wasn't a 2R region. But anytime that the full take profit is like much greater than 2R away, I define a region where price is likely to find some resistance in the open P&L. So that's in this case it was the distance between London high and 2R of my position. In this case, it was the distance between this top of this first consolidation and 2R. So it's basically like a key level, or not like a higher time frame key level, but like a 1 minute, just maybe it's consolidation or something around like 1.7R to then 2R of my position. That's the 2R region. And I look to extract 1.5R from that each time. That's a way, while also leaving on the largest possible remaining position size. So I take advantage of partialing, and I also take advantage of trailing stops to secure that 1.5R. So like in this case, we can look at the executions of how I did this. So I partialed one out here around 1.8R, trailed to about 1.3 or 4R, and so with that I secured 1.5R from the 2R region, while also leaving on 1 micro to experience continued movement. So in that case is trying to find the balance between taking profit and letting profits run. That's what the purpose of this 2R region system. And so when we look at my average RR, what do we see? Like it's 1.84. One trade this week went fully to full TP, and that was around 2R, and that was this Monday trade. And so what we can see, like 1.84R, that makes sense. It means that I was extracting around, besides that other one, that full TP, I was extracting around 1.5R each time, because the trades didn't end up going to full TP. And that's okay, right? That's the reason why I have the system in place, is just to grab as much of that significant unrealized revenue, extract that as possible over time. So it was all low risk trades, but I did calculate risk correctly on each trade, which was important. As we get into higher risk trades, I'm going to make sure that I continue that, because especially if we were to just look at, for example, since I've started all in to my business, this has been my performance. It's been pretty high performance. Had a drawdown, a pretty significant drawdown for me, like 5-day losing streak, but made it out, given my risk management system. So like this whole thing, it's been generally lower risk still as I've been making it out. And it feels like keyword is feels like, it's wrong to end up putting on a potentially higher risk trade where I could take out, a third of this run back up. But the truth is that, this whole run here it was 4 trades, 4 days, 4 trading days worth. This was like 12. And so back here, it didn't feel any different. Even though we're at even a little bit higher available trailing drawdown, a little higher profit, it didn't feel wrong to put on higher risk because, I made a lot of larger risk wins consecutively. So it's like the mind it feels like, oh, because I've spent so much time working through drawdown and working through all this, I'm afraid of going back into drawdown. Well, just because you lose one trade doesn't mean that you're going to go into a drawdown. In this case, I lost one trade and then I lost one day, lost 4 more. In this case, I lost one and then lost 1 more and continued winning. This time, I lost, only 1 day. And so, it's just like there's almost like a PTSD there that just have to like get over and just continue executing the system. So far, it's meeting the goal. The goal is to have a profit factor of 2 or above over time for the entire system. And we're meeting that so far. Of course, want it higher, but just want to continue seeing over time it meeting that goal. So I'm going into next week, like if there are the whole point of that ramble was that going into next week, if there are larger risk trades, I will continue to calculate risk correctly and not hesitate and put lower risk, which I did do back in this region, whether conscious or not. I did end up making mistakes in risk calculation, always to the lower instead of the upper, because I was afraid of going back into drawdown. So, and yes, I made it out of drawdown, but again, I have to continue the momentum. And so, if there is a larger risk trade this week, what you can count on is that I will risk appropriately on that trade. So now onto where I fell short this week. So something that I noticed was my elegance in taking 1.5R off of the 2R region was a little low. Just looking back at the videos of myself, I seemed very stressed and hurried. And when I'm trading, when I'm in the proper mindset, I don't see the market as moving super fast. It's moving as it's moving, and I'm moving with it, and it's not like something where I feel like I'm rushing. And really what that is I'm like, in my head, when I do feel like I'm rushing, I'm just like, oh my God, it's moving so fast, moving so fast. What I really need to do is just slow it down. So just kind of coming into the market with the kind of tendency of just slow it down, I think is going to be an important thing. But overall, I put that as where did I fall short? But I really attribute that mostly to it being something new. And because it's new, and it's not super easy to do, it's actually quite challenging. There's a learning curve. And, I'm gonna not beat myself up about it and just be like, yeah, okay, there's a learning curve and I'm going to, just get better at it over time. Because I met the goal each time I secured 1.5R. It just felt clanky and clunky, like doing something new would. So something more, so it's like real quick, a tactical mistake I made was this trade, London high, became 4-hour external range liquidity, and I actually, during this open position, I needed to move my full take profit to this high because it ended up being my final terminus per my system. But when I entered the trade, it wasn't. So just something that I wasn't paying attention to. But that's very tactical. Something more strategic that where I fell short this week is I like the zone. Just the zone in trading. It's in any high performance is a tough space to stay in for the body. I think the mind thrives off of it, but the body, I think, can degrade under that much. It can create a lot of physiological stress. So like trading in the mornings, I think of it like I'm going in and playing an NBA game every morning. I mean, imagine the stress on your body that would exhibit, and requirement for mental performance that has. That's very, very high pressure. And it is. And so one thing I noticed myself doing this week, and I've been doing this for a little, probably just over this time that you see here, is going, after the trading day, like going to YouTube YouTube or some sort of mind numbing, just something mind numbing, and kind of doing that to distract myself from the intensity of the zone and kind of get myself out of the zone that I've put myself in to perform under pressure with trading. And so instead of that, what I will do this week is learn to control my mind, not only to control it, under the pressure of just high performance, especially filming that performance in front of the world, right? Not only controlling my mind and maintaining focus in those instances, but also learning to control my mind in the sense of tuning it towards recovery, not just performance. Again, if I'm playing an NBA game every morning, then once I'm done with that NBA game, and I've had the post-game interviews, whether that be the reflection, right? Then it's time for me to go back home with my family and really like soften my mind. So take that pinpoint focus and move it more to just a surface, and really just, I'm thinking of it like taking my contacts out. Like I have pretty poor vision, so when I put my contacts in, I'm able to focus like on a very specific point. But when I take them out, it's just all blurry. But that's actually quite relaxing for the mind, because it's just easier, or I should say it's very relaxing for the body, because your mind is more kind of just chilling, on a less focused point. So I'm gonna focus on that and focus on recovery this week. Just looking at the red folder this week as well. It is that was this June 22nd. Yeah, I mean it's stacked each day, so very likely going to be trading every day. I don't think I have something on Friday or any meeting in the morning, so likely going to be trading every day this week. Took 2 days off this week, so again, with that level of performance required, it's important that I am recovering each day. So that's going to be the main focus for this coming week, and what I just mentioned. I'm trying to think if there's anything else that I want to mention about performance. Yeah, and I would just say, like, weeks like this, they are, while it may be, a very small profit relative to my average winning week, they not only pay for things like commissions, but this is basically like paying for a larger risk loss And, that in a way you can think of it like, these smaller weeks are paying for the risk for taking larger trades. So I think that's an effective way to think about it. And also just something that I really reflect on a lot is the 80-20 rule. It's like if we look at my performance over the course of, this is a little over a month, 80% of the gain in this month occurred from 20% of the total time of the month. So basically, said another way, and the way that I like to think about it, is that it's likely that throughout the year, throughout my career, 80% of my time is going to be spent holding my money. And 20% of my time is going to be spent making my money. And when you think of it like that, it kind of flips the game on its head to where now, and not to say like, oh, like if I go on a vacation, I'll miss the 20%. That's not at all the point. It's not just like linear where it goes 20% on, 80% off, even though in this case, it looks very much like that, where it's like 20% run, 80% hold, or time-wise. So it's not to say like don't, take a vacation. I'll take a vacation anytime I want to and use, the freedom that trading allows me. But I think it's an important concept to just, I've found very important to understand for me conceptually, because it sets a tone for the game. So like a week like last week, I feel like I'm getting nowhere, or a small losing week, or a week that maybe this week it's a 5-day losing, like literally 5 days in a row losing, but it's not like destroying my P&L, and I've been managing it, and making sure I'm holding my profits. Like, it gives a new purpose to those weeks of not just like, oh, I'm not going anywhere. It's like, no, like this is just the game. I'm holding my money and allowing myself to be present for when those bigger runs occur. And just to put this in perspective as well, so like I'm on $1 million evaluation with Apex right now. Since this data, so I'm about $50,000. This was starting from a drawdown in the account, so there's another $30,000 that I need to make to pass that the evaluation, and then to get that funded. So that's just to put it in perspective of it's felt so slow, because I'd rather like pass an evaluation in a few days. It's been like over a month, but I'm not going to just break my rules for trying to pass an evaluation. Old me would have looked at the trades this week and said like, oh, if I just risked more, could have made so much and passed evaluation. I don't even think like that anymore, because it's just not repeatable. I'm not a fortune teller, and there's no way for me to know, what's going to win and what's going to lose. So it's just important to follow the systems and continue executing relentlessly when I'm here at the market. One last update that I didn't mention in the last segment was that I'm getting, so Casper SMC, my mentor, he put out a mechanical strategy, and it's like the first 5-minute candle strategy. And I go and test varying mechanical strategies I see just to ease my mind. My mind will be like, oh my God, like what if that's the one, like, it's so easy and making all this money so easy. So, I go and test it and just prove that it doesn't work over time. But this was one of the first ones that it does. It's showing like it actually works. So what I'm doing is, I'm not a robot. And so I'm not going to just mindlessly, enter and exit positions just because there's some level of profit in it. I came way too far for that. But what I'm not above is creating a robot, to do it. So I'm having a freelancer just create a script for the strategy. I described the strategy in some Loom videos, and they're coding it right now. And it's a Ninja script, so use it in Ninja, and I can back test it and for like, many years, 10 years, 20 years of data, and basically do that in minutes. And if it shows like over that time, if it shows years or many, months consecutively of like profit, say 1.5 profit factor or above, over time, then I'm going to run it as an automated script on its own instance of NinjaTrader, trading some Top Step accounts, just as some like automated income that I'll have going on the side as I'm also, trading the discretionary strategy and making the real money. But for me, it's just like, if I can automate this, and I could link 10 Top Step accounts together and with just another instance of Replicanto, say it makes 20% a year, that's 20% on, say, $500,000 Top Step accounts can make $100,000 a year automated. And if that cost me, say it blew a lot of accounts with Top Step, maybe that's a profit, $10,000 that it costs, that'd be a profit factor of 10 still. And for me, I see that as very worth the automation. So I'm going to share the results of that back test, share my decision making on whether I'm going to run it, and then if I do run it, share the live results too of that on top of my main focus, which is the discretionary execution. So that's it for this weekly performance, and I'm looking forward to sharing this week's live execution and review of that performance too.